So I invite us into a time of reflection, a time of grounding, just perhaps feeling where your body connects with the earth, with whatever you may be sitting on. Maybe your gaze finds a soft landing. Maybe you close your eyes and go inside. Maybe you acknowledge that going inside right now is too uncomfortable, too destabilizing. Respecting where you are in this moment. As we enter into the holiday season for many, may we give ourselves permission to rest, to slow down, to say no. Maybe we listen to the wisdom of our bodies, the ways that our nervous system lets us know what our capacity is. May we go into time with our given family and our chosen family and friends with an awareness of how the world events are impacting us. May we find that love within ourselves to accept all parts of ourselves. And maybe that makes it a little easier for us to hold space for others who may think differently, vote differently. I invite you to scan your body if that feels like something that you are interested in doing. And just notice how your body is talking to you. Where are you holding grief or confusion, pain, fear? Where is there a sense of ease? Noticing the rhythm of your heartbeat, and the rhythm of your breath. Noticing if the breathing is coming from the chest area, which is more anxious energy, more fight or flight. Or are you able to have deep belly breathing? So as you inhale, you feel the belly rise. And as you exhale, you feel the belly contract. If you're noticing your energy is a little bit low, perhaps you focus more on the inhale, which tends to be stimulating. If you're noticing a little bit of agitation or restlessness or anxiety, perhaps you focus on your exhale. Lengthening the exhale with each round of breath. And observing the thoughts and images as they come and go, like cars on a highway. Now, these moments of meditation or mindfulness are not about controlling our thoughts or pushing them away, but simply developing non-attachment, befriending our thoughts, but not attaching them so strongly that they become who we are. Not attaching to them so much that it clouds our ability to zoom out and see how we are all interconnected. Not attaching to our anxious thoughts so much that we move around in the world with fear and dread and panic, imagining all the potential catastrophes. Not attaching to our memories and our thoughts so much that we live in the past. How do we honor the past, not know the future, and live and breathe and soften and relax into the present moment just as it is? And notice how pleasant or unpleasant or neutral that is. And maybe a simple mental noting, thinking, or catastrophizing, or analyzing, or judging, or remembering. That simple mental noting just gives us a little bit of space. A little bit of space to know that we are not our thoughts. When we slow down, when we give ourselves moments to pause or to meditate, we may not like what arises. It's often an indication of what needs tending inside of ourselves. Maybe you notice you're a little anxious when you're going to sleep, because in those moments of slowing down, all that we've been avoiding or compartmentalizing, they rise to the surface. And we need to tend those fears, those wounds. If you are digesting content about genocide or hate crimes or more injustice, how are you metabolizing that? How are you giving yourself room to still experience the joy and beauty of humanity amongst all the horrors? When you gather at the holiday table, how will you remember that you are all connected? And that hope is a discipline, as Mariam Kaba says. It is something to practice. How can we work on building bridges inside of ourselves, those parts of ourselves that we find icky, those parts of ourselves that we wished were developed in a different way? How can we let go of diet culture language that polices what we eat? Why don't we just listen to the rhythm of our body that will tell us what we enjoy and what is enough? How can we make room at our holiday table for the indigenous people? Those who have been erased, those tribes who have experienced genocide, those who have left their wisdom, and those who continue to move around in the world. How can we continue to honor that we live on the ancestral lands of indigenous people who were here for thousands of years before colonization? How do we enjoy our time with family and friends while still understanding that others across the world may not have that luxury? How do we honor those people who don't have the supports that they want or desire, and the holiday season brings about pain and sorrow? How do we honor that there is always multiple truths and that the upcoming holidays for Indigenous people, for Jewish people, for Muslim people, for Christian people, for atheists, for agnostics, for Sikhs, for Hindus, for Jains, for Buddhists, for pagan religions, for all people, it's complicated. How do we keep coming back to our shared humanity? How do we notice when we are constricting in heart, in body, in mind, not making room for the humanity of others? How can we notice when we are so caught up in our own pain and our own fears and those of our tribe that we exclude, that we're not curious about the other perspective? How do we turn towards truth and understanding and remember that if one of us is not free, none of us is free? I offer you these words from the Manzanita village, which are maybe words to meditate on. These are the 5 precepts. Aware of the violence in the world and of the power of nonviolent resistance, I stand in the presence of the ancestors, the earth, and future generations, and vow to cultivate the compassion that seeks to protect each living being. How can you cultivate the compassion that seeks to protect? How can we stay awake to the violence in this world and the power of nonviolent resistance? How can we be curious about why sometimes people resort to violence that is not nonviolent? What maybe happened to them? Aware of the poverty and greed in the world and of the intrinsic abundance of the earth, I sit in the presence of the ancestors, the earth, and future generations, and vow to cultivate the simplicity, gratitude, and generosity that have no limits. How do we find that generosity inside of our spirits, inside of our souls, inside of our minds? How can we share power and yield control? How can we make sure that everyone has more than enough to survive and maybe even to thrive? Aware of the abuse and lovelessness in the world and of the healing that is made possible when we open to love, I sit in the presence of the ancestors, the earth, and future generations, and vow to cultivate respect for the beauty and erotic power of our bodies. How do we continue to open to love? When we are traumatized, it is hard to open to love. It is hard to not protect ourselves. It is hard to not move into us versus them. But what if we leaned into we and protecting all bodies, valuing all bodies? Aware of the falsehood and deception of the world and of the power of living and speaking the truth, I sit in the presence of the ancestors, the earth, and future generations, and vow to cultivate the ability to listen and clarity and integrity in all I communicate in my words and actions. How can we listen more? How can we discern what is misinformation, what is disinformation, what is being used to drive people apart instead of supporting solidarity? And how can solidarity towards a people who are viewed as oppressed not negate wanting other people to be doing well and feeling safe? How can we move around in the world listening, noticing when we want to deny the pain of others, when we are dehumanizing, when we are lumping people into a group that doesn't deserve our care, our love, our respect? How can we love the people but may not agree with their actions? Aware of the contamination and desecration of the world and of my responsibility for life as it manifests through me, I sit in the presence of the ancestors, the earth, and future generations, and vow to cultivate discernment and care in what I take into my body and my mind. I invite you to notice what you are digesting and metabolizing and taking into your mind, body, and spirit over the coming days and weeks. What helps your spirit sing? What helps you feel a little lighter? What helps you feel a little bit more expansive? And what makes you contract? What makes you hate? What makes you push away? Can we lean into discomfort that helps us to transform, that helps us to move towards collective liberation? I am rooting for all of us, especially the most vulnerable among us, those who don't have the power of platforms, the power of resources, the power of community, those who have been left to suffer, those who have been dehumanized. May we take great care and recognize that this is a tender period and that maybe we each need a little bit more grace. May we feel passionately. May we grieve. May we rage. There's nothing wrong with rage, especially a rage that does not dehumanize. Rage is often justified and different than anger. May we disagree in a loving way. May we challenge systems of oppression. May we call each other in and forward. May we check in with ourselves about how we can be supporting collective liberation. May you be well. May you be free. May you find some contentment and some ease. May you feel supported in your truth in your freedom and your liberation, and may we all work towards collective liberation. May we take moments to pause and regroup and begin again. May we own our mistakes. May we have humility. May we embody anti-racism and anti-oppression and collective liberation in all that we do. May we sprinkle kindness wherever we may travel. Who knows what big of a difference that might make. I wish you all well, and I hope that we connect soon. Take good care.